I'm Claire Young, 28, and I've been bailing out my family for years, paying their bills, covering rent, cleaning up their chaos. Last July, at my sister's 30th birthday party in an Italian restaurant in Boise, Idaho, I thought I'd done something big. I slid a sealed envelope across the table, my chest tight with hope. Inside was a promise, $6,000 to cover her rent for 6 months. She ripped it open, glanced at the note, and smirked. "You think this means you're forgiven?" she said, her voice sharp enough to cut. The table, my mom, my aunt, a few cousins erupted in laughter. I stood there, my face hot, my hands shaking. Forgiven. For a dumb gift I got wrong 10 years ago, I'd been paying for that mistake with every check I wrote. I reached over, snatched the envelope back, and said, "Then never mind." The laughter died. 5 minutes later, they were screaming at me, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. Before we dive in, tell me, what time is it where you are, and which city are you listening from? I'd really love to know how far this story has traveled. I stood outside the restaurant, the summer air thick with the hum of Boise traffic, my hands still trembling from the fight inside. My sister's words, her smug, "You think this means you're forgiven," kept replaying in my head. Forgiven for what? A stupid mistake from 10 years ago when I was 18, and thought Jessica, my sister 30 now, and not exactly independent yet, would love a cheap scarf I picked out for her birthday. I'd saved up from my part-time job at a coffee shop thinking the bright red pattern matched her style. She opened it, laughed, and said it looked like something from a thrift store reject bin. I apologized 100 times, but she held that grudge like a trophy, bringing it up every chance she got. That scarf became my punishment, a reason for her to demand more money, favors, my time. For years, I'd been their ATM. I paid my mom's electric bills when she forgot to budget, covered Jessica's rent when she blew her paycheck on clothes, even fixed my aunt's car when it broke down. 2 years, thousands of dollars, and not one thank you. I thought the $6,000 for Jessica's rent would change things, maybe heal that old wound. But their laugh snapped something in me. Back inside the table was chaos. My mom leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Claire, don't do this. You're making a scene." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "I'm done," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "No more money, no more bailing you out. I've paid enough." Jessica's face twisted, her eyes narrow. "You're selfish," she spat. "You think you're better than us because you have a job?" My mom jumped in, her tone pleading but edged with guilt. "Claire, we're family. You can't just walk away." My aunt chimed in, muttering about loyalty, but I barely heard her. Their voices overlapped, a wall of accusations: selfish, ungrateful, cold. I'd heard it all before, every time I hesitated to open my wallet. I looked at Jessica, her arms crossed, smirking like she'd won something. "You've taken enough," I said, my voice steady now. "Figure it out yourselves." My mom gasped, clutching her napkin like it was a lifeline. "Claire, you don't mean that. We need you. Need me. They needed my bank account." Jessica leaned in, her voice low. "You owe us, Claire. You always have." That scarf again, thrown in my face like I'd committed a crime. I shook my head, done with the guilt they'd piled on me for a decade. The restaurant felt smaller, the air heavy with their stares. I grabbed my purse, my chair scraping the floor. "I'm not your fix anymore," I said, turning to leave. Jessica shouted after me, "You'll regret this." My mom's voice followed, softer but desperate. "Claire, please think about what you're doing." I didn't look back. The door swung shut behind me, muffling their voices. I stepped into the parking lot, my chest tight, but lighter somehow. I'd spent years trying to make up for a mistake that wasn't even mine anymore. That scarf, that stupid red scarf, wasn't worth this. They weren't worth this. I got in my car, the engine humming as I pulled away. My phone buzzed, texts from Jessica, probably more insults. I didn't check. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I'd given them everything, money, time, pieces of myself, and they'd laughed in my face. No more. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew I wasn't going back. Not to that table, not to their demands. I drove home, the city lights blurring past, wondering how I'd let it go this far. Jessica's smirk, my mom's fake tears, my aunt's muttered judgment they'd pushed me too far. And I was done playing their game. A week after I walked out of my sister's birthday party, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I was at home, sprawled on my couch in Boise, trying to focus on a design project, but the notifications kept coming. Jessica, my sister, sent a barrage of texts. "Claire, you can't just cut me off. I need help with my car payment." Then another, "You owe me after that stunt you pulled." My mom wasn't any better. Her messages were longer, dripping with guilt. "Claire, we're struggling. You're all we have. How could you do this to us?" I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. They acted like I'd betrayed them, like my years of paying their bills meant nothing. Jessica's next text pushed me over the edge. "I saw this cute jacket online. Only $200. Send it over, a jacket." She was jobless, living off my checks, and now she wanted a jacket. I opened my banking app, sent her $1, and typed, "Enough for now." My finger hovered over the send button, then I hit it. Let her figure out what that meant. My mom called minutes later, her voice shaky but sharp. "Claire, what's wrong with you? Jessica's in trouble. You can't just send her $1." I gripped the phone. My patience gone. "Patricia," I said, my voice cold, "I'm not a bank. I told you I'm done." She gasped like I'd slapped her. "You're breaking this family apart," she said. I hung up, my heart racing. Breaking the family. They'd been breaking me for years. The calls didn't stop. Jessica left voicemails, her tone switching from sweet to vicious. "Claire, come on, be reasonable," she'd say then. "You're so selfish. You know that." My mom sent more texts, each one heavier with blame. "We raised you better than this." I stopped responding, but every message felt like a weight, pulling me back to that restaurant, to their laughter. I'd spent years trying to fix their problems, thinking it was my job. Now I saw it clearly. They didn't want me. They wanted my money. A few days later, my boyfriend invited me to a family barbecue at his parents' house across town. I hesitated, still raw from the fight with my family, but I went. Their backyard was alive with chatter, the smell of grilled burgers and corn on the cob filling the air. Zachary, my boyfriend, squeezed my hand as we walked in. "You okay?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I nodded, but I wasn't sure. His dad, Zachary's dad, was flipping burgers at the grill, cracking jokes about his secret sauce. His mom, Zachary's mom, set out plates. Her smile warm as she waved me over. "Claire, grab a drink, make yourself at home," she said. It felt strange, this easy kindness, like stepping into a different world. Then I met Zachary's sister Ava, a 22-year-old with a quick laugh and paint-splattered sneakers. She pulled me aside, away from the crowd. "Zach told me what happened," she said, her voice soft but direct. "Your family sounds like they don't see you. That's their loss." I blinked, caught off guard. No one had ever said that to me before. Ava grinned, handing me a lemonade. "You're pretty cool, Claire. Don't let them make you feel small." Her words hit me hard, like a door opening to a place I'd forgotten existed. I wasn't used to being seen. Not like this. We sat on the grass, watching Zachary's dad argue with Zachary about grill techniques, both laughing. Zachary's mom brought me a plate, piling it high with food. "You need to eat," she said, her tone gentle but firm, like she actually cared. Ava stayed close, asking about my graphic design work, genuinely curious. "Show me your portfolio sometime," she said. "I bet it's amazing." I smiled, my chest loosening for the first time in weeks. This family, these people I barely knew, made me feel like I belonged. No demands, no guilt trips, just warmth. By the time we left, the weight of my family's texts felt lighter. Jessica and my mom were still out there scheming, blaming, but I wasn't their fix anymore. Ava's words stuck with me. Their loss. Maybe she was right. I drove home with Zachary, his hand on mine, the city lights flickering past. I didn't owe my family anything, not my money, not my guilt. For the first time, I felt like I could choose who mattered. It was a quiet September evening when my doorbell rang. I was at home in Boise sketching designs for a client trying to focus after weeks of silence from my family. I opened the door and there was my mom, Patricia, standing on my porch, her face tight with worry. "Claire, we need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the living room without waiting for an invitation. I stood frozen, my pencil still in hand. She sat on my couch, wringing her hands. "The bank's going to take the house," she said, her voice low but urgent. "I owe $7,000. You have to help us." Her eyes locked on mine, expecting me to pull out my checkbook like always. I took a deep breath, my chest tight. "Patricia," I said, my voice steady but cold. "I told you I'm done. I can't keep fixing your problems." Her face fell like I'd betrayed her. "Claire, this is our home," she pleaded. "Your sister and I have nowhere else to go. You're our only hope." Our only hope. I'd heard that line before every time she needed cash. For years, I'd paid their bills thinking it made me a good daughter. Now I saw it for what it was: manipulation. "You need to figure this out yourself," I said. "I'm not your bank." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You're heartless," she snapped. "After everything we've done for you," I shook my head. "You need to leave." She didn't move. Instead, she leaned forward, her voice softer, almost desperate. "Claire, please. This isn't just about me. It's about family. Family." That word used to mean something to me, but now it felt like a trap. I pointed to the door. "Go," I said, my voice firm. She stood, her hands shaking, and walked out, muttering about how I'd regret this. The door clicked shut, and I thought that was the end of it. An hour later, the doorbell rang again. This time, it was Jessica, my sister, standing there with her arms crossed, her face twisted in anger. "You're really doing this," she said, stepping inside without asking. "You're letting Mom lose the house." I stayed calm, though my heart was racing. "Jessica, I'm not paying anymore," I said. "You both need to take responsibility." She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Responsibility? You're the one who owes us. You think you're some big shot with your fancy job looking down on us." Her words cut, but I was done letting them hurt me. She kept going, her voice rising. "You've always been selfish, Claire. That stupid scarf you gave me. You knew I'd hate it. You did it to humiliate me. That scarf again. 10 years later, and she still used it to guilt me." I stared at her, my patience gone. "You're 30, Jessica," I said. "Grow up." She flinched, but her eyes burned with defiance. "You're abandoning us," she said. "You'll be alone, Claire. No one will want you." Her words stung, but I saw them for what they were: desperation. She wasn't here for family. She was here for money. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and sent her $2. I typed "time to grow up" and hit send. Jessica's phone pinged in her pocket. She checked it, her face reddening. $2, she shouted. "You think this is funny?" I stepped closer, my voice low. "It's more than you deserve," I said. "Now get out." She stood there fuming, then turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I sank onto the couch, my hands trembling. $2. It wasn't about the money, it was about drawing a line. For years, I'd let them pull me back, guilt me into giving more. But now I was done. Patricia's pleas. Jessica's insults, they couldn't touch me anymore. I'd spent too long trying to fix their lives, thinking it would make them love me. But love doesn't work like that. They didn't want me. They wanted what I could give them. I looked around my small apartment, the sketches scattered on my table, the quiet settling in. For the first time, I felt like this place was mine, not a bank for their demands. Jessica's words echoed alone. Maybe she was right. But alone didn't scare me anymore. It was early October, and I was at my apartment in Boise, sorting through sketches for a freelance project. The silence was a relief after last month's chaos with my mom and sister. My phone had been quiet, no more demands, no more guilt trips. I was starting to feel like myself again, like I could breathe without their weight on me. Then my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ava Zachary's sister standing there with a shy grin holding a rolled-up piece of paper. "I made something for you," she said, her eyes bright. She handed me the paper and I unrolled it carefully. It was a drawing, a vibrant sketch of a Boise street with bold lines and colors that felt alive. At the center was a figure that looked like me, standing confident surrounded by light. "Ava, this is incredible," I said, my voice catching. She shrugged, her paint-splattered sneakers scuffing the floor. "I thought you'd like it," she said. "You're always creating cool stuff, so I wanted to give you something back." I stared at the drawing, my chest tightening, not with pain, but with something warm, unfamiliar. No one in my family had ever done anything like this for me. My mom and sister never gave, but Ava saw my work, and thought it mattered. I hugged her, and she laughed, hugging me back. "You're stuck with me now," she said, and I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Later that week, Zachary invited me to his parents' house for dinner. I was nervous, still getting used to their warmth after the barbecue last month. When we arrived, Zachary's mom greeted me with a quick hug, her smile easy. "Claire, good to see you," she said, setting an extra plate at the table. Zachary's dad, William, was in the living room flipping through a notebook. He looked up as we walked in. "Claire, got a minute?" he asked, waving me over. I sat beside him, curious. William was a retired architect, always talking about buildings and community projects. He opened the notebook, showing me sketches of a local park renovation. "We're planning a community center in that park," he said, his voice steady but excited. "New murals, signage, maybe a sculpture." "I've seen your graphic design work," Zach showed me, "your portfolio. You're good. Really good. Want to take on the design for this?" I blinked, caught off guard. "Me?" I said, my voice small. William chuckled. "Yeah, you. We need someone with vision, and I think you've got it." He handed me a folder with project details, timelines, budgets, concepts. It was real, not just a pat on the back. They wanted me, not my money or my fixes, just me. I spent the rest of the dinner half listening to Zachary's mom talk about her book club, my mind racing with ideas for the project. Ava sat across from me, sketching on a napkin, throwing me a grin when she caught me staring. "You're gonna kill this," she whispered. Zachary squeezed my hand under the table, his quiet support grounding me. For the first time, I felt like I was part of something, like my work mattered to people who cared about me, not what I could give them. Back home, I spread Ava's drawing and William's folder on my table. The drawing was more than lines and colors. It was proof someone saw me for who I was, not what I owed. And William's offer. It was a chance to build something, to leave a mark that wasn't tied to my family's demands. I started sketching ideas for the community center, my pencil moving faster than it had in months. Murals with bold patterns, signs that welcomed everyone, a sculpture that felt like hope. I wasn't just designing for a park, I was designing for myself, for the person I was becoming. I thought about my mom and sister, how they'd tried to pull me back with their accusations. They'd called me selfish, heartless, but sitting here, surrounded by Ava's drawing and William's trust, I didn't feel like that person. I felt seen, valued, like I could finally step out of their shadow. Zachary texted me later, checking in. "You seemed happy tonight," he wrote. I smiled, typing back, I was. For years, I'd tied myself to people who took without giving. Now, I was building something new with people who believed in me. By December, Boise was wrapped in a cold snap, and I was deep in the community center project, sketching murals that would brighten the park. My life felt like it was finally moving forward, new designs, new purpose. Then I got a call from an old family friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. She sounded hesitant, her voice low. "Claire, I thought you should know Jessica lost her apartment. My sister Jessica, now 30, hadn't paid rent since I cut her off. The friend said she'd seen Jessica working as a server at a diner downtown, juggling trays and looking worn out. She's struggling," the friend said. "It's tough to watch." I sat on my couch staring at my phone. Part of me felt a pang. Jessica was my sister after all. But the other part, the part that remembered her insults, her demands, felt nothing. She'd laughed at my help, called me selfish, and now she was facing the consequences. I didn't call her, didn't text. I'd spent years carrying her weight and I was done. The friend mentioned my mom, Patricia, too. She's in a bad spot, she said. Bills piling up, creditors calling. Apparently, Patricia had tried to reach me, leaving voicemails I never checked. I'd blocked her number after her last visit when she demanded $7,000. Their problems weren't mine anymore. I leaned back, my sketchbook open on my lap. The guilt I used to feel didn't come. Instead, I thought about the community center, how my designs were coming together. The murals were bold with colors inspired by Ava's drawing, bright, hopeful, welcoming. William had been checking in, offering feedback that pushed me to refine my work. "You're making this place special," he'd said last week. It was the kind of praise I'd never gotten from my own family. My mom and sister had only seen me as a solution to their problems, not someone with dreams of her own. A few days later, I got an email that stopped me cold. A local business owner had seen my portfolio online, thanks to William sharing it with his network. They wanted me to design branding for a new coffee shop opening in Boise, logos, menus, signage, the whole package. It was a big project, bigger than anything I'd done before, with a tight deadline and a decent budget. I read the email twice, my heart racing. This wasn't just a job. It was a chance to build my name, to show what I could do. I replied immediately, setting up a meeting for the next week. Zachary came over that night, his smile wide when I told him about the project. "You're killing it," he said, pulling me into a hug. We sat on my couch planning how I'd tackle the designs. He listened, asked questions, made me laugh with his terrible suggestions for coffee shop names. It felt so different from the conversations with my mom and sister, always heavy with demands. With Zachary, I could just be myself. No expectations, no guilt. I showed him my sketches for the coffee shop and he nodded, impressed. "This is you, Claire," he said. "This is what you were meant to do." I thought about Jessica, picturing her in that diner, balancing plates, maybe regretting how she'd treated me. Part of me wondered if she'd ever change, if she'd realize she'd pushed me away. But I didn't dwell on it. My phone stayed silent. No calls from Patricia, no texts from Jessica. I'd made my choice, and they were living with theirs. The friend had said Patricia was borrowing money from neighbors trying to keep her house. I felt a flicker of pity, but it passed. They'd had years to figure it out, years when I was there pouring my savings into their lives. They chose to take, and I chose to stop giving. The next day, I met William at the community center site. The park was bare, dusted with snow, but I could see it finished, murals on the walls, signs guiding people in. He walked me through the progress, pointing out where my designs would go. "You're not just making art," he said. "You're building something for people to come together." His words hit me hard. I'd spent so long trying to hold my family together only to be torn apart. Now I was building something real, something that mattered. I went home and started on the coffee shop project, my desk covered in sketches and color swatches. The work felt good, like I was carving out a space for myself. Jessica and Patricia were out there struggling, but I wasn't their lifeline anymore. I was my own. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. It was February in Boise, and the chill in the air felt like a fresh start. I sat at my kitchen table, a map of the Pacific Northwest spread out in front of me. Zachary leaned over my shoulder, pointing at a spot near the Oregon coast. "Cannon Beach," he said. "Great views, quiet town. Perfect for a weekend getaway." I smiled, my pen circling the name. After months of work finishing the community center murals and launching the coffee shop branding, I needed a break. The idea of a trip, just the two of us, felt like a reward for everything I'd been through. Ava had already texted begging to join, but I wanted this to be me and Zachary, a chance to breathe and focus on us. Planning the trip gave me something to look forward to. We booked a small cabin by the beach, planned hikes along Haystack Rock, and even found a little cafe known for its clam chowder. Zachary was excited, his eyes lighting up as we talked about campfires and stargazing. "You deserve this, Claire," he said, squeezing my hand. I nodded, feeling a warmth I hadn't known a year ago. Back then I was drowning in my family's demands, always saying yes to their problems. Now I was saying yes to myself. That shift didn't come easy. It took a year of standing my ground, of learning what it meant to set boundaries. My sister Jessica and my mom Patricia had pushed me to my limit, demanding money, guilt-tripping me, calling me selfish when I refused. I used to think family meant giving everything no matter the cost, but walking away from their chaos taught me something different. Family isn't about who takes the most, it's about who lifts you up. Jessica and Patricia hadn't contacted me since December. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. I heard through a friend that Jessica was still at the diner saving for a new place. Patricia was renting a small apartment, scraping by. I didn't feel the guilt I expected. Instead, I felt free. Setting those boundaries was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Every time I said no to their demands, to their accusations, I was choosing myself. It wasn't about being cold or heartless like they'd claimed. It was about knowing my worth. Ava helped me see that with her drawing and her quiet support. William, too, with his belief in my designs. They showed me what it felt like to be valued, not used. I carried that lesson with me now like a shield. I wouldn't let anyone, not my mom, not my sister, cross that line again. As I packed for the trip, my phone buzzed with an email from the coffee shop owner. The branding project was a hit. Customers loved the logos and they wanted me for another job. I smiled, tucking the phone away. My career was growing, my designs leaving a mark in Boise. The community center was almost done too, with my murals set to be unveiled in spring. I wasn't the same Claire who'd walked into that restaurant last summer, desperate for my family's approval. I was someone new, stronger, surer, surrounded by people who saw me for me. I looked at the map again, tracing the route to Cannon Beach. This trip wasn't just a getaway. It was a promise to keep choosing myself, to build a life with people who cared. Zachary walked in carrying a bag of snacks for the road. "Ready for this?" he asked, grinning. I nodded, my heart full. "More than you know," I said. To everyone listening to this story, I want to share what I've learned. Family isn't defined by blood, it's defined by respect, by love, by who shows up for you. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish, it makes you whole. It's okay to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family. You deserve to be surrounded by those who see your worth, who cheer for your wins, not just your wallet. I spent years trying to fix my mom and sister, thinking it would earn their love. But love doesn't work that way. Find your people, the ones who lift you up, and hold them close. That's the family that matters. Thank you for sticking with me through this journey. It means the world to share this with you, to know you're out there listening. If my story resonates, if it makes you think about your own boundaries or the people you choose to keep close, I'd love for you to join me. Hit that subscribe button, be part of this community. Let's keep telling stories that matter together.